everybody. Thanks very much for joining and thanks for coming for HEC. My name is Lior Shekel and I'm a strategic partnership team leader at IronSource. And my team specializes in hyper-casual developers in charge of both helping our partners with the user acquisition activity and their monetization strategies. Today I'm going to talk to you about my top 5 A/B tests, which I believe every game developer should try for each one of their games in order to increase revenue and drive more users. And IronSource, for those of you who don't know, are building the leading growth platform for game developers, big and small, and help them turn your games into scalable businesses. This is the agenda for today. Okay, so we're gonna go through the growth loop, the A/B test, and some key takeaways. Before I start, I just want to mention, if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to drop them in the chat, and I promise I will answer each and every one of you. All right, so let's start. So the growth loop. The growth loop is basically a framework that we've built here at IronSource that's aiming for hyper-casual developers to connect both their UA strategies and their monetization, which is crucial to driving success in the hyper-casual sector. And the growth loop basically consists of 4 steps, right? So the first step is your user acquisition. You acquire users, you bring them into your game, they start playing. Of course, this leads also to organic users. And this is something that we all do, and is crucial, especially for hyper casual. The second stage is the monetization, right? So here you have 2 options, whether if it's in-app purchase or advertisements. Of course, in hyper casual, we're talking mainly about ads. And now this is all, baby steps, but this is where it becomes a bit more, let's say, complex. Is now you have to take those monetization after you have the users and you're seeing the game, and you start to analyze and optimize it. You have one goal in mind, right? And this is to maximize your LTV, so that each one of your users is going to drive as much revenue as possible from playing your game. And the last step is we go back to the user acquisition, right? And now we have to start analyzing and optimizing our marketing and our UA strategies. Here, the goal is to maximize the profit, which at the end of the day is every business's core goal and the one thing we all aim for. Okay, now we have to understand that, and of course then it goes back to starting the user acquisition again, and on goes the circle. But understanding and looking at it as a loop, as one thing, rather than separating monetization from user acquisition, is crucial. And this is a fundamental aspect for hyper-casual developers to understand. Okay, you cannot have one without the other. You can't do good user acquisition without understanding the monetization strategies, and vice versa. Okay, and the reason why I'm talking about the growth loop is because I believe, and you'll see it in the different tests that I show you, is that each test that you do has an impact on both user acquisition and on monetization as well. All right, cool. So let's jump right in. And we're gonna start with the very first A/B test that I want to talk to you about, and this one is creatives that boost your UA. So you all know about testing creatives, right? You all test many different concepts, you iterate them, you A/B test the videos with the interactive end cards, you try a playable, and you continue challenging these winning creatives as long as the campaign is live. This is something that I believe that every game developer does and knows how to do, looking at your KPIs. But something that I wanted to focus on, and this one I find very interesting, is an A/B test that actually Supersonic Studios have tried. And this is what happens when you find a killer creative. And when I say killer creative, I mean one that explodes on both social networks and also on the SDK networks as well. Okay, you understand from it one thing: users love it. Everybody likes it. Everybody's engaged with it. It drives you great engagement, low CPIs. Now, what do you do? Okay, now you can continue running it right on all channels and do the user acquisition. But what we've thought about is to actually take this creative and integrate it into the game. Okay, so and then A/B test what does this change have an effect. Of course, we have our KPIs in mind, which is ARPU, retention, playtime, etc. And in this specific case, so this is the creative. Just gonna hit play so you can see it. And basically, the creative, it's a different background, right? The color is purple. You're not hearing the voice, but there is a voiceover as well. And the mechanics, this is the actual game. This is going balls if you don't know the game. And what we did, what Supersonic did actually is they said, right, let's integrate that into the game. And they put it as an epic challenge, okay? An epic challenge level. Once every 3 to 5 levels, of course, everything was A/B tested. You had the option to go epic or continue playing the regular levels, okay? So we're also giving the users the choice whether they want to go epic or to continue. And what we've noticed is that when we integrated that into the game, there was a 10% ARPU uplift. Okay, this is huge, right? I mean, we all know how hard it is to increase the ARPU by 10%, but this is something super interesting. Okay, so taking that creative, integrating into the game. Now we're not talking just about the specific gameplays. This can be backgrounds and colors and characters, male, female, red, blue. All of these changes that you do on the creators all the time. Always good to A/B test it into your game and see, what is the impact. All right, and this is the growth loop that I was talking about before. Okay, it's taking something that's an aspect that's completely from the user acquisition and integrating it into monetization and seeing its impact. Okay, now of course here we always want to A/B test because it's not necessarily that that it's going to drive a positive impact or a negative, or not going to have any impact at all, and so just this is why we want to A/B test it. So we're gonna go now into the second step, and we're already on the monetization, and this test is more about in-app bidding. Okay, so we all know about the benefits of in-app bidding on our monetization, right? Helps you maximize your revenue, saves you precious time, everything is automated, no more waterfall optimization for different geos, different ad units, etc. And you get the full data transparency, at least on Android. For now on iOS, let's see what happens. But in-app bidding also impacts your user acquisition strategies, right? It allows you to increase your reach as the advertiser, as you have more chance to bid for every single impression. And you can scale much quicker, and of course there's less volatility between the networks as they're all bidding, they all probably stay the same. And here at ironSource, with our different partners, we've run more than 1,400 different A/B tests using our A/B test tool that allows you to test between bidding waterfall and a traditional waterfall. And we've seen that 94% of the times the bidding group won. Okay, so waterfall with in-app bidding networks outperformed the same waterfall just with the traditional. And it resulted in a 10% ARPDAU uplift. Now this is an average, right? We saw in some cases 20%, and in very extreme cases even 60% ARPDAU uplift. And you can find all of these tests on our website and all of these case studies over there, so you can go and check them out. Today on ironSource Mediation, we have 11 live bidders, okay? 11 networks that are now bidding, fully bidding. And this is something that I wanted to share with you guys. And this is an A/B test that we ran. And basically you see that doesn't matter what is the network and which developer it is, but look at what the bidding network, so it's the same network, the green is traditional, the red is bidding, and look at the uplift that it gave you. Okay, now in this case, a few months before that, we've run the same test with the same networks, and the results didn't look the same. Okay, the traditional outperformed the bidding. But as every network is a tech company, they always improve and they always change their algorithm and make it better. We've tried this test again, and you can see in front of you the result. So my point here for the A/B test is always continue to A/B test bidding, and not just bidding, but your waterfall. Keep challenging it. Keep A/B test every single change that you do, because it might drive you more revenue. It might not. Okay, but you want to A/B test it, and you want to make sure that your waterfall is as optimized as possible. Now, for the next step, test, sorry, and this one is about when do we show interstitials. So this test talks about optimizing your monetization strategy within your game, and your actual strategies. And before, just a minute before we go into those tests, I just want to remind you of what should be your KPIs. So of course we have the ARPU, right, which is very important, and we all know. So the average revenue for every user, retention of the users, right, how long they stay within our game, the play time, and of course impressions. Now, ARPU, in my eyes, is the most important KPI. At the end of the day, this is the one that will make you, go or no go. And now I want to show you two different tests about the interstitials and where you put and where you place them within your game. So the first test that one of our developers did is the interstitial pacing. Okay, so what is interstitial pacing? Basically, how often do you show an interstitial within your game? Okay, of course, we always show it at the end of every level, right, and not in the middle of the level, although A/B tests have been done about that as well, so I'm sure that some of you have different results. But here we tested the timer, and you can see that the blue line is the control group. The control group in this case was 35 seconds. And the developer tried a later one, so 40 seconds, and a shorter one, 25 seconds. And look at the impact that the 25-second had on the game's LTV. Okay, the numbers here are in cents, so you can see that we increased from an LTV of around 45 cents to an LTV of around 50 cents. It's around a 10% uplift in ARPU, okay, which is huge, and this is by a very, very, very small change that honestly had no effect on retention or on playtime or anything. And we have a lot of developers, and a lot of them did the different A/B tests, and we see that 80% of the time the test group wins. Okay, now here a small disclaimer: the test groups, normally it's a shorter time period, a shorter timer, but it can also be a bit longer. Okay, and this is why it's crucial to A/B test this, right? And make sure that you have the best timer for your game, as also each game acts differently. The second one is another test that we did with another one of our developers. And you all know, the flow of a game. You play, you reach the level end, you have the win page. This is where you see how many coins you won, and you have the option to watch an RV and double it, or skip the RV. And normally when you skip the RV, boom, you got an interstitial. And the developer decided to challenge this. Now, this was a status quo for a very long time, and now, they said, why don't we move the interstitial, instead of being after you skip the RV, but put it before the win page, so before the user even knows how many coins he won and had even chance to engage with a rewarded video placement. Okay, and what we saw is that this change increased the engagement rate of interstitials by 20%. Okay, so 20% more users saw interstitial, and not only that, each user, so the impressions per DAO increased by 1.5. Again, very, very big impact. And you can also see, remember I told you that ARPU is the most important LTV, so it's great that was the change, but what happened of the LTV? And you can see that before win page, in this scenario, actually increased the ARPU. Here we see a 5% uplift, and in the test that we ran with some of the developers, we're seeing that 55% of the test groups, I mean before win page, actually won. So again, it's pretty much 50-50, but you want to try this with your game and to make sure that you have the best setup and your ARPU is as maximized as possible. All right. Great. I remind you all that if you have any questions, please write them in the chat, okay? And I promise to answer you. Great. So we've talked a bit about some tests that you can run on monetization. Now, of course, these are just really a handpick, and I'm sure there are many more tests that you like or that you can run. But now let's move a little bit to the user acquisition. And this test, I call it follow the ROAS. Okay, so ROAS is the most important KPI for UA, right? Or margin, some of you might call it. And just like ARPU is for monetization, when we're looking at user acquisition, we want to make sure that our return on ad spend or our margin is as high as possible, especially for hyper casual, right? Where this is where all of your profit is coming from, balancing between user acquisition and monetization. Of course, it helps you maximize. And this is a sentence that I'd like you guys to take from here. And it's just like you bid per country, and you've never bid the same for the United States and Germany and India and Brazil. You must always bid per source. Okay, so source is like a country within your campaign. And what do I mean by that? And I wanna show you a very interesting case. So you're seeing here. Imagine that this is a regular user acquisition campaign, and you have source A and source B, and you can see that the actual LTV of source A is less than half of that of source B, but you're bidding the same because your default bid for the campaign was 35 cents. That was your LTV. You can see that the margin difference is quite big, right? So you're losing on source A while you're gaining a high margin on source B, and the scale of installs is the same on both of them. Okay, now what happens when we go granular? When we start looking at the source and optimizing each and every source, and you see that the LTV stay the same, it's the same source, but when we decreased a bit on source A, which had a lower LTV, and increased it on source B, which had a higher LTV, we actually managed to optimize towards our margin or our ROAS and stay at a healthy 30% on both sources. But check out what happened to the installs from source B. They doubled themselves. Installs from source A obviously decreased because we decreased the bid, and what this allows us to do is to increase our game's LTV. We are bringing 2 times more good users that are playing our game and driving a high ARPU rather than before. And at the end of the day, this helps us maximize our revenues and our profit and so on and so on. Okay, so this is something that I urge all of you to do, and I urge all of you again to A/B test it. Check out what happens when you do source bidding, and when you do source bidding, I'm sure that every single UA manager here has his own strategy of how he does UA, how he looks at things, but I want you to challenge it, or I ask you to challenge it. Check out different strategies, check out source bidding, check out automated optimizers, whether it's through the network or one that you have developed in-house. And see what drives you the highest ROAS and the highest amount of users. Great, so we're now really towards the end, and we have our very last A/B test to talk about. And from my experience at IronSource, I think the next test is the most interesting that I took part in. And this one actually talking about keeping your users within your own portfolio, or in other words, cross-promotion. And cross-promotion is crucial for hyper-casual developers. The reason for that is that most publishers have very similar users across their portfolio. Their games are in the same genres or at least similar genres, and doing cross-promotion and moving your users from game A to game B and so on is very important. Okay, in some cases it's even very hard to scale a game, without doing cross promotion, especially if you're a big publisher and you have a lot of games, and especially if they're in the same genres, just like most of the hyper casual developers. There's always cross promotion through a native placement, but from the tests that we have seen, we saw that there's only a 3% engagement with this ad placement. which is something that is not incremental in any way. And so we said, you know what, why don't we challenge it and let's A/B test this, and we've teamed up with one of our developers and our partners, and we did the A/B test with them without cross promo. Before I go into the test results, just a small disclaimer. The test that you're gonna see was run through the IronSource cross promo tool, which is available using the IronSource mediation. And the reason is that it allows you to split and separate between your cross promotion activity and without cross promotion activities, allows you to segment the cross promo to different users. And so it was very easy and for us and intuitive to do this test and to get the results. So the first test we did, okay, we basically took an app and we said 50% of the users are seeing cross promotion, group B, and 50% are not. We checked the retention, and as you can see in the graph here, we noticed that there was actually zero impact on retention. When we looked at the ARPU, because as we said, ARPU is the most important, we found something very interesting, that actually the ARPU of the app with cross promotion slightly decreased. When I say slightly, I mean there is about a 1 cent difference. And once we investigated, we could explain this drop, and basically this is the alternative cost of showing cross promotion, and which means bringing, you know, at the end of the day, it's an ad that you're paying for it, and you're monetizing it, so it stays within the company, and the alternative cost of not showing another ad from another publisher and getting the money from it. So this is what we saw here, but again, it was very insignificant, and we said, you know what, it actually makes sense. But what's interesting to see, at the end of the day, cross promotion is looking at your entire portfolio. So what happens to your portfolio's LTV? And when we looked at that, we also saw that users that were engaged with the cross promotion app at different days drove a different portfolio LTV. And these are the results. So what you see here, very colorful graph. You're seeing here the dark blue line over here. This is users who saw and were engaged with cross promotion from day 0. Okay, so the very first day that they installed app A, they already start seeing cross promotion ads. And then you have day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. In this specific case, the developer noticed that users that were engaged with the cross promotion from day 2 drove the highest LTV. And look at the portfolio LTV difference. We're talking about, you know, from 60 cents to more than 90 cents. Okay, so this test, super interesting, and just tells you how important cross promotion is and how important it is to segment your users and segment the cross promotion within your game until you find that sweet spot and that perfect day to start showing cross promotion and scale your ad. Needless to say that, you know, when this test was run, it also had a positive impact on user acquisition, on monetization, and on retention as well. Right, so those were my 5 A/B tests that I wanted to share with you. And just before we leave, a few takeaways from me to you. So one is always to challenge your setup, okay? Whether if it's your user acquisition campaign, whether if it's your monetization strategies, your waterfall setup, your interstitial timing, anything that you do, challenge it, all right? A/B test it, check what it is. Remember your KPIs and always stick to them. ARPU, retention, playtime, impressions, you know, you might have a different KPIs or something that you prioritize over another, but remember them, stick to them. When you're running an A/B test, you want to make sure that you define your KPIs beforehand and what will be a successful and a non-successful test, and explore new growth opportunities, right? The interstitial was a growth opportunities, cross promo was a growth opportunities, and I'm sure there are many, many more. So always explore, try new opportunities, see how you can improve the game, because it's always possible. And of course, always, always, always A/B test everything you do, every change that you make. This way, you'll make sure that each decision that you make within your game has a positive impact and the one that you want on your game, on your revenue, and That's it. So thank you very much for joining and for sticking with the session. I was Lior. You have my email here, and as I said, if you have any more questions, feel free to reach out through the conference or later on. And thanks very much for your time, and enjoy the rest of the conference.